First step is to get the alarm remote start prep. Here's all the wires that I depin from the unit. Always do it just to make it look cleaner. Just getting everything prepared, flashed, and pretty much set for this 2001 Sierra. So the next video will be pretty much just assembling the truck, and then let's get to it. First things first, disassembled the dash area. Obviously this needs to come off, the side panel. Other than that, there's not really much to take off on this. There's only 2 7 mils in the bottom, and this whole thing pops off. And the radio bezel, we're not going to be using that since he has a new double din. So let's go ahead and take this apart and then show you what that looks like. Everything's taken off, just kind of get everything prepped. I already pulled the zip ties and things like that, so everything is pretty much ready. You're going to need wires from the ignition harness and the BCM, and I will show you that once it's pretty much all completed. The more I look at this thing, the more it's kind of annoying that this is how it's installed. You can see it just kind of bounce around. No wonder why it wouldn't unlock for the customer. And the solenoid itself is just kind of, yeah, just moving around like that. So, and feels like the solenoid is broke too, so I'm gonna have to definitely check that. So I just got the alarm remote start part situated. Ran into a little problem in the Chevys. When you upgrade the taillights to an LED, almost all the LED taillight assemblies bleed out power, so it sends back power from the back to the front. So whenever you have the remote start brake signal is connected, it's actually receiving a signal shutting down the vehicle. So I'm gonna have to address that with the customer, see what he wants to do. But I did took off everything from the door panel and kind of just investigating on the door popper, and that's kind of what we found. It's pretty much touching the glass, so it's rubbing onto the glass, and everything is just kind of loose in there. So this is definitely not the proper way of basically installing a door popper, so gonna have to see what he wants to do with that one as well. The other side is pretty much just as bad. Let me go to the other side. That's what, like I said, it's kind of rubbing on the glass. It's literally on the glass, and definitely can't be having that. So I'm gonna try to see what we can do with this one, and then basically just move forward after that. So the alarm is done. Temporarily put the factory tail light just so the alarm and remote start would work properly, since the LED was bleeding power back to the brake switch and shutting down the remote start. But anyway, we are going to be moving on to taking apart the speakers and replacing it. This one is pretty much seen better days. The other one is held by a zip tie, and we're gonna go ahead and remove the radio, which is also held by a zip tie. But anyway, yeah, let's get to that speaker. And we're also going to remove the amplifier wiring that was ran in this truck. So we're going to be installing a new one. There is a new amp coming in, new radio, and the AVS door popper that's designed for this truck. So I'm waiting on that. But yep, let's get to it. I ended up having to find different screws. The one that's in here was pretty much like oversized and loose, so it's pretty much making the popper wiggle. So I went ahead and got bigger ones, so it's going to be a lot tighter. But anyway, let me go try to put that on and show you what that looks like. Got the new one in, much sturdier. So we're going to check the other side and see if that thing needs replaced as well. Looks like the passenger side needs a little love as well, so I'm going to try to find some screws and see if I can bolt that back down. Other side wasn't even drilled in, so we're going to make a new hole and then secure this side. Got the popper secured. Going to go ahead and take care of the speaker, rewired it properly, and then put the new speaker that he provided. He did buy some tweeters as well, so we're going to go ahead and figure out how to mount that as well. But yeah, let's go ahead and take both of them off and then put the new one in. Speaker removed. You can see this needs to be redone, so I'm going to put new terminals. That way the new speakers are not going to look like this. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and check the color code and see which one's positive and the negative. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and cut that and take care of it. I went ahead and put new terminals and new speaker wire. Heat shrink type connector, that way it's all sealed. Yeah, gonna put new holes on it, and gonna remove that tweeters deal as well. Gonna wire up the aftermarket tweeters that he bought as well with these 2 wires, and then we should be moving on to the driver's side. Moved on to the driver's side, and that's definitely a first for me. Never seen a butt connector used as a quick release, but I guess whatever works at the time, I guess that's what they'll use. But that's going to get replaced as well, just like the passenger side. So let's go ahead and take care of this one. So wrapping up the alarm stuff, as you can see, it's kind of temporarily zip tied. I'm still routing wires, trying to prepare it for the door popper, and I'm also going to be cleaning this up. But just to give you an idea, everything is pretty much mounted, zip tied and things like that. So we got the driver's side pretty much done. As always, got it sealed, mounted, so let's go ahead and screw it together and hold it in place. Since both speakers for the front are already taken care of, the back speakers are not working, so I'm going to go ahead and double check what's going on with that. But we're going to go ahead and move on to the radio and remove it, and then see what's going on behind it. Radio is out. It doesn't look too bad, but it's definitely getting redone. Not sure what all these grounds that are tagged in here, but I definitely need to check that out and see what's that all about, since this blue wire is going under the dash, and it looks like it's for power. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that one out. But yeah, let's go ahead and start cutting the wires and then prep it for the new radio. After tracing those blue wires that were hooked up to accessory, it looks like one of them is going, looks like it's going to the light for the gauge. So I'm gonna go ahead and redo that, and I'm not sure what this yellow wire is going to. I believe that's for the sensor, so I'm gonna go ahead and fix that one as well. And I believe the other one is going, looks like for the amp. I'm definitely tracing that one as well, since I don't know where it's going, but so far at least one of them I figured out. So let's go ahead and cut that, and then let's see where the other one goes. So I'm tracing around some wires, and I found out that one of the accessory wire that was hooked up to the radio, it looks like it's going to the blue signal wire of maybe the oil pressure. Yeah, it's going to the oil pressure right there in the bottom. Right there. So I'm going to hook up that back to accessory, and I did trace the power wire for the amp and find out, yeah, I guess you don't really need a bolt these days, but this is supposed to be hooked up to the battery. So I was going to go ahead and get fixed as well, and we're going to run a new power wire. Finally got all the RCA and the remote wire, power wire for the amp. I'm slowly moving backwards. They kind of have so many wires wrapped around one another, and I believe, I'm not even sure what this wire goes into, but I believe that's how they have the door popper removed or wired currently. Yep, it is for the door popper. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get that thing situated as well. Yeah, this is kind of a pain a little bit, but we still need to check the back speakers are not working. I'm not even sure if there's a speaker in there, but I'll go ahead and check that once I remove the amp, and then yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take that apart. Got all the power stuff for the amp. I'm gonna go ahead and run the new ones. I do want to trace what that wire is, because it looks like it's going under the car. So maybe it is for the popper. That I'm not sure, but it is going under. But that would explain why the rear speaker is not working. It's pretty much cut from there, so I guess I do have to remove the panel and pretty much run a wire from there all the way to the speaker. So not sure how that happened, but needs to get taken care of. Found out why the rear speakers are not working. Like I said before, it was pretty much cut, so I went ahead and got the things ready so I can connect it back together. And this one is pretty much, it was kind of cut up, so there's nowhere to really mount it, so I don't know what he wants to do. Maybe replace it with a tweeter. Move on to the passenger side. And this one's pretty much done. So this one's also not held properly, so I'm gonna go ahead and mention that to him. Let me see if this one's hooked up. Oh, this one's also cut. Not sure what's going on with that, but it's missing the plug. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that off as well and see if I can find the plug. So for the passenger side, I had to pop this off since it was missing the boot, and obviously it was cut as well. So I had to trace it from all the way inside and pull it from the holder, just so I can at least solder some wires in it. But I'm gonna try to go ahead and squeeze it to that hole and at least get it ready, get the grommet, and then finish this side up. Before I begin with the radio and speaker swap, I'm gonna go ahead and replace the spring-loaded popper, since obvious reasons. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and put a new one. He did provide a new one, so I'm gonna go ahead and swap that. That way it'll pop properly once everything is installed. We're moving on to the radio portion of the install. Got the DIY bypass for the 770NEX, and we're gonna go ahead and do that to the harness. So let's get to it. Got the harness all wired up. Also got the video bypass, so he'll be able to do things that would require you to be able to only be used when you step on the parking brake. But this is the bypass for that, and do this at your own risk. I'm not responsible for anything that happens if you do this on your own, so I will also address that to the customer when he picks up the vehicle. But other than that, let's go move on to the car, mount the double din, and then see how that looks. So it's taking a bit longer to do this double din. This kit doesn't perfectly, I guess, make it sit to this opening, and the bezel that came with it is not as good as the factory. Like, the lip is a lot smaller. Also, he didn't have the base for the mic, so I'm gonna try to see if I could mount it inside so it's kind of hidden a little bit, or maybe even, I guess, upside down. I will run the USB to the glove box, or possibly run it in the middle right here. That way he can easily access it. But yeah, I'm still kind of test fitting the radio back and forth just to see how to make it as close to basically perfect fit. I believe I had to space it up a little bit and push it up. That way it'll, I guess, clear the opening fully. But I'll go ahead and keep working on that and then show you what I come up with. Still currently routing all the wires. I got the radio pretty much done up. Got the USB ran to the glove box. Got the RCA for the amp. Got the mic, which is mounted right here. There's still quite a bit of wires that need to be ran, but I'm gonna go ahead and pop the radio in. I got all the wires run up here. So yeah, we'll go ahead and test the radio first before installing it, and then keep on moving to run the power wire to the battery. While I'm still waiting on parts, went ahead and fixed the rear speaker, since whoever worked on it before cut it and pretty much didn't connect it, and it was also missing this. So customer brought that in, got everything soldered, everything ready. So whenever he fixes this hole, then everything is pretty much good to go. Driver side rear is also done. Got the speakers for him ready. All he has to do is pretty much plug it in, and that should be good to go. jumping on and off with different jobs, but this one I'm just I drilled the hole for the two-step MSD. So I already got the wires pretty much ran. One of them is a ground, one of them is a power, or actually just completing ground, sorry. It's a ground, and this completes the circuit to ground to MSD, and that should give it two-step. While we wait for more parts, we're gonna go ahead and jump around and do other things that we actually have. So I'm gonna be installing this two-step for this truck. So this one's pretty easy, plug and play. Got the bank 1 and then bank 2, and then it's going to be activated via the switch, which I also already mounted right here. So let's go ahead and do that. Get everything mounted, wired up. Missing the nuts as well on these 3. I just now noticed it. If you're wondering what this is powered at the door popper switches. So you got one here and then one here. They do have the option of adding stuff in here, so I'm not quite sure why they added it here, but who knows these days. But that's all getting removed once the new poppers are in. But for now, this needs to be situated. Definitely need some nuts for this one. Need the nut for this one and this one. So I just finished the two-step, pretty much zip tied in there. It does have a cover, so I had to take it off before I can even install that. But yeah, it's just a simple plug and play to bank 1 and bank 2, and then grounded with a switch to activate it. So everything's pretty simple on this one. Got everything put back, got everything ran, tested the two-step, everything works. So gonna go ahead and put the cover back. I did have to go to the store and get the proper nuts, as this is holding the bus bar, so that had to be taken care of. But this one is for the trailer brake, so we're not going to touch anything for that. This one's going to get removed. Oh, I guess it'll remove itself, but I need to keep it put back in there for now until the poppers arrive, so I can just pull it whenever it's here. So I'm going to go ahead and mount everything for now, put the cover back on, and then proceed with the amp. So I found out when I was preparing the power wire for the amp, the one that was in there is stripped. So every time you twist it, it actually don't even want to lock in. It just falls off. So that definitely had to be taken care of. Luckily I have one on hand, so I went ahead and put one in. So everything is brand new and tight. But yeah, this one definitely needed to be replaced. Pretty much get the amp all buttoned up. Got the bigger fuse block, two-step. Like I said, this is temporary, that's getting removed. I got everything zip tied. So yeah, pretty much everything right there. Amp terminal is ready, the new post, and we'll move on to the inside and run the amp wire to the back. So getting the amp and the RCAs and such things like that ran. It's already coming down. It's all pretty much going to be hidden, obviously. As far as the RCA, it's in this channel right here. You don't really need to tape it. There's not really a point. The power is a couple of inches away from it, so they're both gonna meet behind right there. I still need to find a ground point. I might be able to use one of these bolts, but pretty much this one's done. So I'm gonna go ahead and put back the panel and move on getting everything ready for the back. Preparing the ground for the amp installation. I just noticed that the customer's amp kit did not come with a ground, so I went ahead and got him one. I already sanded this part of the metal right here. Always use a metal brush. Always when you ground, take off the paint. I'm gonna use self-tapping, and that pretty much will take care of the amp as we wait for it to arrive. So I got everything pretty much ready. Like I said, we're just waiting on the amp. USPS is kind of taking a while for it to get here, but I can finally put the covers back on. Already got the ground. I did have to trim the edge a little bit since the 4-gauge ground was pretty big, but not a big deal. It was missing a cover or a push clip right here, but no big deal. But anyway, let's go ahead and put back the panel, and that's pretty much all we can do so far, since we are still waiting, like I said, for parts. But we will do anything that we can that we have so far. Early morning, I actually had to take off the radio back off. I found out one thing about this NEX model, that the bypass won't really work like the old days or the old way. So shout out to DIY Bypass for letting me know about this one. But you do have to add a switch in line with the remote signal wire. I haven't soldered it yet, but I wanted to show you. Basically what it's doing is the radio is taking a long time to boot up, and by the time it boots up, the relay or the switch is already bypassed. But it took so long for the NEX to pretty much boot up. So what you have to do is basically add a switch to be able to turn off the bypass, and then let the unit boot up, and then turn it back on, and then let it do its thing to pretty much bypass it after that. So for this particular model, the 1770 NEX, you have to add a switch at the remote signal wire for the bypass for this thing to work. Finally, the AVS door popper kit arrived along with the 2 actuators and the relay itself. So I'm going to go ahead and take it out of the box and kind of just inspect the instructions to see how to wire this thing up, and if I need to do anything fancy or anything like that. But I will also show, once it's all wired up, what I have to do. Like I said, the Silverado or the Sierra has alarm remote start, so we're going to tie it into that. So let's get to that. So I'm going back and I found out an issue that's going on with the door trigger for this thing. I've done a lot of these Sierras and Silverados and Tahoes and things like that, and I've never had a problem tagging the dome light, because every time the dome light kicks on, that means either the driver or the passenger are being opened. But somehow this one kept saying that the door is open, and I found out that the dome light signal is bleeding a little power, so I'm not quite sure where that's coming from, but it's showing enough voltage to trip the negative signal for the alarm to trigger, just like how the brake issue that I had and it being activated for it to shut down for that LED tail light. So I'm having that same issue with this one. So I'm waiting for the customer to let me know if he wants me to troubleshoot that. But I ended up tagging the main door switch signal, so I'm picking up this one instead, and not letting it pass through the dome light, since they are tagged together and they kind of work together. But yeah, I tagged it in directly here, and so far I had to bend the switch a little bit since this thing is not fully lined up. I think that's where it's binding and it's kind of causing it to stick a little bit. So far it's showing some kind of improvement, so hopefully that is some kind of fix. But I'm gonna keep checking on that, and pretty much, but for now I'm gonna fix that real quick, and then we're gonna go move on after that to removing the door popper. That's so far that's where we're working at. Got to take these 2 bolts, got to take this whole assembly off, pull this out, and then prep it for the door popper, which it looks like it'll arrive tomorrow. All right, I got the door lock actuator removed to prep it. This is kind of what I'm wondering about. It looks like this rubber is getting stuck and making it look like it's in the open position. I did just push it down just to see how far it goes down, but I'm gonna try to see if I can remove that. Hopefully it's not part of anything, but I'm gonna spray a little bit more lubricant in there. And yeah, this one's pretty old, and this is the one also that I had to push down to try to I guess trick the door switch from not sticking, being that this door is not lined up. But yeah, I'm gonna take that off, spray a little bit of lubricant, and then grease this up a little bit more, and hopefully that helps the issue. So after finally figuring out how this thing even goes, I did follow the full instructions from AVS. They don't want you tightening this thing to where it's not moving, so they kind of want it just a tad bit loose to give it a little play. I'm not sure what the purpose of that, but I figured probably so it won't bind. But that's kind of what it's showing so far. So the outside head is on the right side and not on the left. So, but yeah, so far I followed pretty much to the T, and I guess we'll see if it works out. As kind of expected, it's hitting at that little lip right there, and it won't let the third screw hole that's towards the outside, it won't line up and it won't let it sit flush. So I'm gonna have to figure something out and see if I could notch that area out. So I ran into an issue with that little lip right there, so I had to notch out a little bit of the AVS bracket just to kind of clear it. I'm gonna go ahead and sand that down just to knock off all the hard edges, and then pretty much test fit everything back and see where we are. Kind of just prepping the wiring for the driver's side. I'm gonna go ahead and mount the relay harness right here. That way it's out of the elements. This is how I ran it. And obviously it's gonna have to go through inside, but this is the easiest way to run the wire all the way to the inside of the door. We're gonna go ahead and zip tie it along with the harness. That way it's pretty much away from anything that would, I guess, damage it or cut it. But anyway, I'm gonna be running it right here along with the harness and then to the actual actuators. Sorry about the noise from the background, somebody cutting the grass. But anyway, I already got the passenger side ran to the boot, and this is power from the previous person. As you can see, it's in between that metal right there, but that's live power. Already got everything zip tied. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the one that they ran in there. Let me see if I can turn the light on. Oh, my battery's too low. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and remove that, cut it, and then install the passenger side actuator. Got the passenger side off. I'm gonna go ahead and take off that bolt that they put in there and then install the second kit. So far I got the passenger side pretty much wired up. That's what it looks like behind right now. Let's see if I can turn the light on. I did have to notch a little triangle piece right there so it'll fit pretty much the way it should. I got the wire pretty much zip tied away so when the window goes down it won't hit it. But yeah, the black wire goes to the blue of the actuator and the red goes to green. So I got the passengers or the driver side done. I showed you what it looks like on the passenger side, but I also did have to notch another triangle piece right here, and I already got the wire pretty much done. Same way, the green to red and then the blue to black. Go ahead and make sure you zip tie everything so it doesn't catch anything. I'm gonna go ahead and extend this to go all the way to the battery, because I guess they designed it to where it goes to the battery or the engine bay, but being that these fuses are open, I prefer for them to be inside so it doesn't get wet. Got the ground right here in one of the bolts. I'm not quite sure where to run the emergency yet, but I'm not going to show you where I would do that. The only one that's going to know is the customer, but I'm going to try to extend this and get power at least to these doors. I got the power cable for the relay system and the emergency wire. I'm still trying to figure out where to hide that just in case something do happen with the battery or it dies and things like that. But I started kind of removing some of the harnesses that whoever did it didn't do a very good job. It's all running under, so I'm going to be removing all that. That's kind of like for the emergency buttons, but he's no longer going to need that since he's going to have a new emergency one. But let's go ahead and start cleaning everything up and then prepare, pretty much power the relay. Got the power wire situated, loomed, heat shrink, things like that, so it's ready to go to power. I went ahead and put a fuse in line just to protect the circuit from here all the way to the relay, since generally that relay is supposed to be mounted anywhere here, but since I mounted it inside, might as well protect it. But I still need to run the emergency switch, and then that pretty much would conclude the door poppers. Okay, I've pretty much finished the mounting the relay and things like that, so everything is pretty much secured, zip tied. I already tested the emergency wires. Already tested both, they pop great. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to put the bottom panel on and pretty much the cover, since I got the new radio in. The other one was pretty much defective, so had to order a new one. But anyway, let's go ahead and put the bottom cover on and then put the radio trim back on. Got everything put back together, got the door panels put back together. I did figure out and got the go ahead to troubleshoot the dome light backfeeding signal to the door trigger of the CompuStar, making it going off randomly. I went ahead and diode isolated the dome light so it's not going to backfeed. So both doors are now pretty much providing signal separately, but it'll still be as one. So that's taken care of. The radio already pretty much put everything back together. I got it as close as I can to the fitment, but I'm gonna go ahead and start cleaning everything up and let the customer know that it is pretty much ready to pick up. Got the radio situated. Just to recap, the old one was defective, I would say, so I had to order a new one. So here's the new radio. Everything works great. Can't turn it up due to copyright deal, but I already got it adjusted a million times, that way the dash kit would fit. So overall, today I got the door popper situated. I'm not going to put back the panel until I'm satisfied in like a day or two, just to make sure everything is all good. The bottom panel is already put back, so yeah, I'll give it like a day or two, make sure the poppers work great, and after that everything is pretty much shipped off. Just gonna do a quick test on the door locks or the door poppers. This is the button for the two-step activation. This is for the bypass for the radio. I currently don't have the horn hooked up just because I don't want it to be too damn loud in here. But right now I'm gonna lock it. Right now it's locked. And once you unlock it, it'll pop the driver's side only. And let's go to the other side. Then we'll hold the trunk. This one does need a rubber piece right here, which is the customer is going to provide eventually. It currently only has washers, but it needs to be more bigger, that way it'll push it out more harder. But overall everything works the way it should. The sub, I got that thing wired up and I'll show you what that looks like. Let's go to the other side. Nothing crazy. I did cut out the carpet, that way it kind of molds in there so it looks like it's on top of it. But that wire, the customer did want the sub box right there, so that's out of my control. So I got to run the wire from behind the seat in the middle and then to that box, which I did test it out already. The box is kind of falling apart. The screws are pretty much separating and the box can't hold that kind of power from the sub. So I'm gonna make him aware to get a new box eventually, but for now everything works. Amp is done, radio's done, door poppers are done, and that's all there is to it.